Hello, we'll get started in a few minutes as folks start to assemble. Either of you have items for the agenda, please add them under the opens.
Hello there.
How are you doing today, Arno?
Pretty good.
I miss not having meetings with you. This is a treat.
Thank you. There just are too many meetings to choose from. It's like standards.
Or I have a lot of alternative meetings that I can escape from coming here. We'll just give it a minute or two more for other folks to join. I have just a few things to talk about, and if anyone has any other items they'd like to chat about, please add them. While I eat this cracker.
So I did my homework. So I'm happy to follow up on the homework we set last time. Of course, it's just my opinion. So if that's all there is, it might not get us much more advanced, but you know.
That's all any of this is. Everyone's opinion. While we're waiting for another minute or so, I'll draw your attention. We have an exciting new example diagram, stickers.
Yes, I saw that. Did you make that one?
I did. I've done almost all these.
And we're supposed to try to, narrow down. And I'm sure this is helping. It's cool. I mean, it's yet another point of view, right?
Yeah, it's very similar to what do they call it? Landscapes, like the CNCF and the CDF have them. We have it, but it's for members. We don't have it for our projects. Yeah, landscape. So we have an OpenSSF landscape, but it's just our members.
So the advantage is there is a tool for that we could leverage, actually.
We just kind of define what the elements are and then toss a bunch of logos at it and away it goes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we appear to be running a little short today, but that's fine. We'll have a quality small group conversation today. As I just highlighted, there's an exciting new example diagram that is used throughout many projects within the LF ecosystem, stickers. And if we like that, that's another way we can represent ourselves. That, as Arnaud mentioned, there's actually a tool that does that. So that would be a fairly simple exercise to get a real one of those put together. And I actually shared that. So I did, the next thing is the presentation that I shared here. I've shared with the TAC GB governance committee, and I also shared with the end users working group. And I think I'm going to be giving it to the Continuous Delivery Foundation talk next week. They were looking for some inspiration of ways they can represent themselves. So I was going to kind of show them a couple different styles. But did any of the three of you have any additional feedback on the presentation or on any of the diagrams that we might want to start to focus in on.
So, all right. So before that, I would say I would like to go back because last meeting we had, I asked you at the end, okay, what's the to do for next time, right? And so if you just scroll down in the meeting notes, we have the homework,
Yes.
which is comments on deck, which we can do, but then there was persona ideas and then the requirements. So I think the persona is maybe, what I want to bring up first, because
Jeez.
I think it kind of, we've all said, hey, there are many different point of views we could go for, and it's all a matter of what's the audience, and different audiences will, probably justify using one type of diagram versus another, right? The representations are kind of aimed at different types of people. And so I think, we all said, yeah, there are different point of views and they may all be interesting in their own way. The problem is we can't tackle it all at the same time. We need to try to figure out which one do we go first for, right? So I have thought about it. I think the very first thing we've all shared, right, is the general public point of view is like, I heard about OpenSSF. I'm trying to figure out what this organization is about. What's going on here, right? So I think that's the first persona we need to focus on. And then the second one, I think, is more like the person who want to. And I don't know if this can be done as the same or if it has to be separated, but somebody who is more like technically oriented and is trying to figure out, okay, what are the technologies I need to use to, improve my system, my environment, or what, right? And the reason I say that is because I think so now, if I may, well, I'd be happy to entertain feedback on that. That's my point of view. It's like these are kind of like the primary targets we should focus on. And the reason I say those two is because, as I said, we all share that need to just be able to see what's going on in this organization. And the other is, people who have heard about OpenSSF, about the big software supply chain security problem, they want to start tackling it. Where do they go next? What do they do? What are the things they should be looking into? And so I think this one is more technically oriented. And I think I'll say it up front, I think the CI/CD point of view is my favorite for that one.
Okay.
For the first one, and I kind of mangled the two now, but I'll let you react, obviously. But I actually like your landscape one for the kind of global view, or if we want to have more of a just basic hierarchy, organizational structure, I think could be reasonable too, but it has its own challenges. And if we had a better, the problem I have with that one is that I don't know that their structure is necessarily the right one or something that is actually meaningful. I think it has been mostly developed organically over time. And we haven't, as you know, the TAC has been in the process of trying to figure out even what's going on here. What are the different groups and projects we have? What's the relationship? And we definitely haven't got to the point where we say, okay, does this actually make sense? Or do we need to move things around, for instance? And so that leads me to, suspect that this purely organizational hierarchy type of view is actually not the proper way of presenting ourselves, because I don't think that structure is necessarily right. So basing the representation based on that is maybe the wrong move. So I spoke enough. I'll just shut up because I threw a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm. So while you were talking, I pasted in right before this call is the GB TAC governance committee.
Yeah.
And they spoke about this exact problem, about personas and about what problems we're trying to solve. So if you look, what problems we're trying to solve, I think that echoes exactly what you just stated, Arnaud. We have the new user perspective. Where do I start? And then from a more technical, a stakeholder perspective, what are we doing? How's it going? How do I get involved? I think that pairs very well and echoes a lot of what the higher ups are also pondering. My only complaint about the hierarchy diagram, I think from an outsider, I don't know what value that adds to them. It doesn't help explain what business problems those groups are trying to solve. It just kind of solves like, where in the org chart is this stuff? And hey, there's a budget committee. They must deal with money. It doesn't really, I think, explain to a layperson or an outsider kind of what we're doing. But there is a value in that, and the governing board liked that one best of all.
Well, I mean, from a
Yeah, I
governing
would agree
board
with
point
that.
of view, I can see why. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Rosario.
Yeah, I would agree with that. As the new person that I am, I wasn't in the meeting 2 weeks ago, so I'm playing a little catch up looking at this deck. I think the deck is great. I just don't know, as a new person, if it helps with trying to navigate the OpenSSF. So for instance, let me give you an example. So if my organization is specifically doing something around how to use dependency data, and how that dependency data is important to them and what they should be looking for and how we should be using it, I don't know how to navigate the organization to get that answer. And I'm not sure that this fantastic deck is answering that question. Yeah, exactly,
Well,
Rob. Yeah.
the deck is designed to show the work we've done and say, we have a lot of examples of what we could do. Can we please help focus in on a handful?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
The deck itself is not designed to tell the story.
Right.
It's not meant to be the output. It's really more of the input to the work we are doing here.
Right.
And if there was a style that people liked, and if we had a majority of people say, I like this one, we could go and refine it and make it better, because a lot of these are just kind of quick back of the napkin kind of drawings.
Okay.
So I think, again, I think the governance structure we have, the hierarchy, is something that internally we definitely want to have.
Yes.
And because we do need to figure out whether this is the right structure, whether some working groups should, be moved around, merged, or project move around, stuff like this, right? I think in that regard, I mean, I think off the top of my head, I think that isn't that like scorecard, isn't there best practices?
It is.
And it's like, well, then we have a security tooling working group, which, as you'd expect, maybe that's where it belongs. I don't know. There may be a rationale to have it the way it is, but, this is the kind of conversation we can have if we have the good representation, right? But it's not something we need to publish to the world and say, this is how we are organized, because that's not going to be very helpful to anybody outside.
Yeah. And at a minimum, we probably definitely need to consider renaming a couple of the groups. The names aren't, like, developer best practices is kind of self-explanatory. But like, security threats or securing critical projects, those aren't quite as useful to an outsider. And I think we probably could go through and do a little rebranding at a minimum, but I think there's absolutely opportunity to get things more streamlined and efficient, because scorecards came in very early in the foundation's history, and that's the best practices group. It was kind of aligned with the best practices badge. So that's kind of why they hang out with us. But that doesn't mean it needs to stay there. If we were looking towards driving a strategy around tooling, it might be better. It might be better synergy if they were in with the other tooling teams, if the tools folks actually got together and talked.
And so, by the way, speaking of like, the kind of information we have for ourselves to work on internally, I have come to realize that even though the mind map was pretty cool, it's not necessarily the most convenient way to browse through all the information. As we see, it quickly gets out of control. And I actually realized that, if what I want to do is have capture whether, all the working groups have a charter, for instance, whether it's been reviewed, approved, and stuff like this. A good old table actually does a really good job.
Right.
And you can have all stuff things. I actually started putting together a table like this, and I was like, you know what, this is much better because you can sort things out and all sorts of things you can do. Really, I mean, what you want is some form of database, and so short of a true database, a spreadsheet does pretty well.
Yeah.
It works.
And I think the
well.
TAC definitely needs to adopt something like that, a checklist or something, a spreadsheet for those purposes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And you can do all sorts of mappings. You just add columns. You say, oh, we want to know if they have an external website. You add a column, boom, and then, and so on. So it's pretty much limitless, and it's actually much more compact. This is a way of looking at the data that's we're all used to, and I find it, like I said, I spent a couple of hours playing with the Xmind map app, but at the end, I'm like, you know what? This is all eye candy, but it's not necessarily the most convenient. I think mind maps actually are good when you don't really know the structure and you're trying to figure out what the structure is. But here, that's not the case. We have the structure and we're just trying to put it in a graph form, which in this case is not very. It does look kind of amazing, but.
Well, as
Yeah,
you
Arno, the table would actually allow you to do filtering as well. So when you're trying to
Exactly.
navigate to look for things, it would give you the ability to peel back the onion or drive into what you're looking for. So I think that would
Absolutely.
be good. Yeah.
That's part of why that's what led me to this initially. I was like, yeah, there's like different layers I want to see, right? And having that in the form of a mind map doesn't actually allow me to do that very easily. There may be some tools that do that we haven't, found or played with, but as we know, with tables, this is something you can easily do.
Well, and as you saw, the information can get very dense very quickly if you're adding tags and other types of artifacts.
Exactly.
It distracts from, I think, the exercise a little bit. But I definitely agree. Table spreadsheet would be a great way to track certain aspects of what we were starting to explore with the.
It's not as sexy, but I think from a practical point of view, I would say that's the better way.
Any other thoughts while
So
I take that quick note?
Well, actually, I had more of a question, if that's okay. So,
Please.
as I mentioned that, I missed the meeting 2 weeks ago. So you had said you were going to be presenting this presentation to some other folks. Is that what what the goal is, or is the goal still to? I assume that this team was going to really start doing more standardization across, working groups and things. Is that still the goal? Yeah.
That is an outcome we would like to have.
Okay.
The fact that we've done some work, and I'm basically twofold. I was looking for some direction from our foundation overlords, what they want, how they want to describe themselves. But then two, I was hoping to drum up some additional participation, inspire someone to come help us do some drawings and continue to iterate over them. But yeah, we would like to, and that's one of the things Jay brought up is kind of talking about a call or two back about trying to start to drive this standardization. And again, the deck just helped me kind of synthesize where we are, and I would like to have us go meet with the TAC and say, this is what we found, like take the mind map, for example, and kind of dive in saying all this stuff is inconsistent, and we're just trying to draw a picture, but we've noticed this, and definitely outsiders and contributors and everybody else is more confused than us. What can we do about it?
So Jennifer, do you know how to use the LF landscape tool?
You mean the one where we have the member logos?
Yes, it's the same tool, but we can use it for other things, right?
Right now, so the way it's set up right now, if you make edits to the landscape, it will automatically populate on the website. So we would have to create like a separate area.
I don't think we're quite ready to publish anything yet.
Right, exactly. So just an FYI. Yeah.
No, but
Make
yeah,
edits,
I guess we do.
pop
We
onto
do
the-
want.
But
Good.
yes, eventually I think we can do that. But right now, without any configuration changes, if we were to put something on there, it would pop onto the member page on the website as well because
Yeah.
they're connected.
So that's not what I meant. Obviously, I'm
Right,
asking what it would take to see the little prototype of. I think I kind of like the diagram that the Crub came up with, and that fits naturally in the landscape kind of layout. If we could get somebody at LF to put it together, it doesn't have to be complete, just a subset of it, maybe to get us a feeling of, is that the right path to go down?
Do you mean the sticker one?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. And actually I just I am'd our graphic designer, one of our graphic designers, and they're like, oh, look at this, because we're looking at revamping our slide decks at the moment. And I think that would be a perfect replacement for one of the slides we have now that roughly lays out the pieces of the OpenSSF, but not in a very visually logical way or appealing way, I should say. So absolutely, I think there's definitely a lot of places that we can use a diagram like that.
Because at the end of the day, we also talked about, the practical matter is we need to get some ways to deal with that information, with tools that are really available that let us maintain this over time and fairly easily. And so I think, if we could leverage that tool, well, then so much the better.
I think that could be a real quick win. We would just need, I picked plan, build, run just as a generic kind of development adjacent thought process, but we could pick whatever categories we want and shuffle
Sure.
things around. But yeah, I think the landscape tool would be very effective and be very quick for us. And I think generally low maintenance once we get the images and where things live.
So Jennifer, could you look into what it would take to get some other instance than the website for us to play around, and if somebody could try to put together something along those lines? And like I said, it doesn't even have to be complete, but if for like the next meeting, for instance, we could have something we could look at, that would be cool.
Yeah, let me look into it. I'm not familiar with the landscape tool myself, but
Right.
for sure we have others who are a little bit more familiar. And I'm going to offer to get our graphic design team on sort of maybe sprucing it up or kind of just taking a look at what sort of what kind of structure could be standardizing some of the visual elements of this into a piece as well. So can report back on that as well.
Yeah. That'd be cool. Thanks.
Thank you. So circling back to personas, I think we did that. What we're definitely trying to solve, the new user problem. I'm new to the foundation, and then I'm a more technical. I'm a stakeholder. I need to know like what's going on, where to jump in. Do we have other personas we want to address? So the GB folks were talking about a DevOps persona or a change management persona, which the TAC GB as a persona. Do we have ideas of perspectives that we would want to potentially tailor some of these pictures to? And that might help inform which picture style we focus more time on. Like I'm hoping stickers is kind of a set it, forget it.
Well, things change all the time, right?
Sure, and then we could develop a process that as the working groups report into the TAC might open a PR to adjust
The
the diagram.
vulnerability working group just decided to create a subgroup yesterday, right? So those things happen faster than you think.
I know I'm living it, man. I just thought it was they wanted.
Don't mean to burst your bubble.
I thought they just
understand
wanted a
that-
chat room, is really what I thought, and they had some different ideas.
But anyway, we don't have to get into that now. The point was things keep moving, whether we like it or not. So
Yeah, but ideally, we can get to a point of maturity where it's required that the working groups report up those updates, and that somehow procedurally gets linked into so the diagram stays fresh at some time frame. Maybe not real time, but maybe within a week of a change.
yes, but the tech has not been very strong in that department.
I can validate that the foundation has a technical advisory committee. And they meet.
All right, we agree.
Oh,
Back to what you were talking about, so the persona, right?
mhm. And
So
like for me,
I mean, is the working group a persona?
it could be they would have needs. Like if we're trying, so like my friend Jay here is in the middle of a conversation between several different working groups and projects around trying to harmonize the foundation's supply chain efforts. And the groups don't really know of each other, and they've heard that things are happening. So we're trying to be a bridge to help facilitate that.
Right.
So I think definitely the working groups would be a persona that they would ingest this information and be aware of things that are happening around the foundation, and how and who to go talk to if I have a project we need to collaborate on or we have a question. I get asked all the time, like, where is X or Y type thing happening?
Yes.
Yeah, so that ties in with there's an agenda item here. I'm talking about like some type of a dashboard that ties into that, right? I mean, I feel like if you build it, they will come, right? So if we make something where you hold each working group responsible for updating a dashboard or updating a central repository of some sort that gets that input gets outputted to some kind of dashboard that can be visible during said TAC meeting. I don't know, I'm just saying, and that each representative from each worker group that's supposed to show up to the TAC meeting sees this, then there's less ambiguity or less confusion about what's going on in each working group. And maybe some of these conversations, you got to understand on Slack, these questions get asked, and between Crow and David Wheeler, that's how these questions get answered, and then it's like into the abyss. And he's right. I spent
90 days later, it's gone.
Yeah, I spend most of my time, and Arno can attest to this as well. I spend most of my time in these meetings saying, hey, we're talking about terms and definitions. Well, you know what? Best practices is working on a terms and definitions guide. Have we talked to them to see if they have this term of definition? Have we shared that back and forth? And Arno, please correct me if I'm wrong here. What I always get back is, well, we're not going to wait on them for a term and definition. We're going to do, maybe they can come to us. It's like, well, God, this is being developed in OpenSSF, and these terms and definitions are OpenSSF terms and definitions of where, go. And then, of course, there's a whole taxonomy. I mean, I can go on and on, but the idea is, now I'm saying for our group, if we build it, right, and then present it and say, this is a central place to come and get this information, and still be off and say, then we can, each in this group, because we sit everywhere, we can take this with us everywhere we go, maybe and say, hey, by the way, boom. You know what I mean? And this is over here. I don't know. I'm throwing darts at the dartboard here. But
No, but you're right on. I mean, you're just adding, to what we were saying with the Crow, but it's exactly right. And Rosario, I mean, this gets to your point. It's like, yes, working groups could be, or working group members are definitely, part of the persona we want to address. And, all what we're talking about here is essentially the lack of, clear view of what's going on, who is doing what. And so, generally speaking, the more light we can shed on that aspect, the better we'll all be. And so it is true for the people outside as well as the people inside OpenSSF, is what I'm trying to say.
Sometimes I wish, I'm going to soapbox, if you don't mind, real quick. Sometimes I wish that we looked at, I've been doing a lot of research lately about trusts and holding companies. I do a lot of stuff outside of tech. I own a few businesses outside of tech. And
Do you ever not do work?
Look, I can do what I love and what I'm passionate about, Crow. I can do both. Okay. But I've been doing a lot of research, and this research has pushed me to the point where I'm looking at this the same way. I'm like, you know what? What if we looked at OpenSSF like a holding company? And then we looked at each working group like individual LLCs under this holding company. It seems like we do an awful lot we do a lot of stuff in each company, but we don't actually have a business. Why don't we have a business? Because we don't want to do the administrative stuff that's required to run the business. We want to operate the business, but we don't want to run the business, right? Taxes and your
Absolutely
accounting
right.
and your employee stuff and your things like that. And what does this equate to? End users working group just had that working group has been in existence since the summer, and somebody just now, Crow and I have been talking about this, but we're both spread so thin that getting it done, somebody just now decided to do something with the repo. Do you have a business even if the business is not formed properly? Do you even have a business if it's not formed, right? Whose responsibility is that? And whose responsibility is it then to make sure, because at the end of the day, if we consider OpenSSF the holding company and all these LLCs fall under it, well, guess who has to file the taxes on behalf of each respective company under the holding company? The holding company is responsible for filing those taxes. So ultimately, if our as Pro called them, our diagrammer society overlords, right? If they're going to file the taxes, then maybe we ought to produce something that's an accounting that all the other LLCs need to funnel information into, so that we can present a proper balance sheet or a proper bookkeeping structure to the overlords, so they can. You guys see where I'm going.
Well, and along those lines, Jay, like to the new project that's getting spun up under vulnerabilities, I've been trying to enforce to the enthusiastic members, there's a certain level of quality and decorum and representation we have when we say we're a project of the OpenSSF.
Yeah.
And, you might have an amazing idea to you, but if
Mhm.
you piss off every open source maintainer and they
Yeah.
blackball the OpenSSF,
Mhm.
that's
Exactly. Yeah.
terrible. We
It's
need to
bad,
have
yeah.
we have a level of responsibility here, kind of managing this stuff. We need to do it consistently and be
Consistent.
aware of how we're represented in these different communities.
Yeah.
And we violently agree, Jay.
So I think I will influence my friends on the TAC to make us an agenda item. And we will come do our little presentation to show our homework. And our next homework is that last page of the slide deck. I need to have some pointed questions or demands, next steps from what we would like to see out of the TAC and the foundation. And that can be, how can we have a consistent style of data and information so that we can make these kind of more business-like choices. And I think the GB would really like that if we had that consistent reporting. And I think we're going to need to ultimately get some assistance and make it somebody's job to help out with a lot of these bookkeeping things to get us straight. And that might be a short-term thing, but it might be a full-time job. I spend a lot of time editing README files for the repos I'm associated with.
So I thought about this a lot, and I don't even know how to approach it, who to go to about it, who to talk about. I really have no idea, but I really do believe that OpenSSF is getting the work. There are a couple of working groups that are still incubating.
Yes.
They're still ramping up. They have thoughts, but these thoughts are not even ideas, are not even conceptualized yet. They're spitballing. Outstanding. But as they begin to ramp up, as those thoughts become ideas and they become concepts, and there's POC, this stuff that we're doing on an industry scale is going to get so big that we almost do need at least one person, a program manager or something that can help us do this, and it's got to be a full-time job. I don't know if they work for Brian. I don't know what the hell. I don't know what that is. But I do know that what I'm talking about is a full-time job.
Yeah, I agree. Since I'm doing most of it in my spare time, I agree.
But
Well,
so,
and I know that the TAC had put forth a proposal to the GB at the meeting in Tahoe, where we had asked for program management help, hiring bodies. I don't know where that went, but we definitely, I think, can follow up on that. So I would ask, could you all please look at your calendars for February 21st at 11 a.m. Eastern, which would be
Next TAC meeting, right?
what's that?
That's the next TAC meeting,
That's
right?
the next TAC meeting. I will put us on the agenda, and I would like for us to quickly talk through the diagrams, but I would like to spend more time on the next steps, requests, or observations, however we want to phrase that. And I would
So,
like to,
I think the crux of the problem we've been talking about, right, is the lack of some formal or official source of truth when it comes to what's going on within OpenSSF,
yes,
right? This is what we're all struggling with. So I think the ask that I would have to the TAC is figure it out. I don't know if it takes somebody to be hired, somebody from the LF team to be assigned to this task. I mean, I have to say, I think it's David Wheeler did a lot of work trying to gather some of this information, which, he has most of that information in his slides. And to some extent, at least in the TAC homepage, you have two tables with the working groups and the projects, which from what I've seen, is pretty close to be exact. I don't know that that's all information we would want to have, but so I think, fundamentally, we should have one place, which goes along the lines of what you were talking about earlier, Jay, also is, if somebody creates a new project, SIG or whatever, they should have one spot where they go
Yes.
register this, right? So that everything else, they can be other views, or, other representation of that information, either partially or, in different ways, graphically or what. But we have to have a source of truth somewhere. We don't have that today. It's just
Agreed.
spread all over the place, and it's unmanageable.
And I would
I
love.
I think what we're asking for, is governance around
Yes.
the OpenSSF. I mean, that's what we're asking for. I think that
You're
everybody
right,
is trying
but-
that's the question. How do we obtain governance? And I don't know. I think it's gotten too big to not have processes and procedures and approvals. And it's all governance, and that's what we're asking for, so that it's consistent and that, I don't know exactly what the process is to spin up a new working group, but working groups need to, be a substantial thing that is being driven by something versus just, a potential idea. Ideas are fantastic, but they shouldn't just spin into a working group, because that's what's causing all this confusion. It's ideas versus what we should be working on.
So
You're
there is
absolutely right.
documented process around like the working group,
Mhm.
special funding level. And then there's, if you want to donate intellectual property, like software projects, there's their process for that. But it's buried. As I've had to give that out a couple times in the last month. It's not easy to
Right.
find. But
Yeah,
I
but
agree. I think
we also have a
is-
governance structure and process.
We do.
Some of us spent quite a bit of time last year working on developing this. If you
That was
go
112,
to the
right? That was
TAC
112?
repository, yeah. If you go to the TAC repository, there is a governance, folder, and you'll find all sorts of information about the life cycle of working groups and projects and SIGs and whatnot. And the problem is, we went through quite a bit of, effort to put that together, but the TAC has not implemented it.
not
today.
retrofitted.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not.
I mean,
it's not being
and-
used.
Again, I'm new, and maybe I shouldn't say this with all due respect, but to me, it sounds like the role and responsibility of the TAC needs to be redefined somehow. And I don't know.
So, well, Rosaria, I'm going to say something I'm going to try to say this in a way that's not going to get me in trouble. Boy, and I know this call is being recorded, so damn it. But I'll put it like this. There's a rhyme and reason and cause and effect. And the longer that you spend in the OpenSSF, all I'll tell you is this. I'm a firm believer that Arno and Crow and now me, because I have just about 0.75 of a year in this now, and I've been consistent. I'm in here for the good fight. I'm a firm believer that we are here because it is you can't complain about something sitting on the outside. You have to get on the inside and hopefully do something about it. I think that's as far as I'm going to go with that comment. I think that if you're paying attention, you know why the rules haven't been followed. But all you can do is put up the flag, but then say, okay, now that we're here, let's dig in and see if we can influence or direct somehow towards a situation that benefits everyone involved. Did I do that right? Did I do it right?
You're very diplomatic.
You did well. You did well.
Well,
No, but
and-
so you're absolutely right, Rosaria, and we all share that frustration. I mean, we've been through that, transition of getting in and say, what the hell is going on here? and you hit the nail on the head and say, well, this organization needs governance, and there isn't much governance. And the problem is changing as you go is hard because some people at least fear that we're going to upset the groups, the people that are volunteering their time. And so, oh, if we put too much administrative burden, they're going to run away and say, well, then I don't play here anymore. And I think a lot of this is misplaced, in my opinion. I've been through this quite a few times in my life. And, as long as people understand why we're doing this, and it's not just to be annoying, I think it's okay. I mean, we have to be reasonable in what we ask, of course. But
And I think we also have the reverse of your problem, and Arno, that yes, we potentially could scare away the existing volunteers, but we also could hold the governing board accountable for ponying up people. They have committed that this is important to their organizations and the industry ecosystem. They need to help provide us some more volunteers.
yeah, and in
And
fact,
part of the reason it's not described, it's hard. There's no
you're right.
pressure.
And in fact, I mean, if OpenSSF stays, I did say stay chaotic for too long, it will actually stop people from coming and bringing new stuff here because they'll say, oh, don't go there. This is a mess. You can't do anything. So it's also in the interest of the organization to get its act together and be better organized.
But so if you are able to join me on the TAC meeting, we can come share what we've done and kind of where we see some opportunities for improvement and how maybe we have some suggestions on how to get that corrected. And the TAC means well, but there isn't a lot of not administrative support. There just isn't a lot of program management support, and all the TAC members are also volunteers.
Yes.
And I think if we bring this to their attention and say, this small band of heroes is interested in helping, that potentially we can help drive some positive change and get a little bit more structure. It doesn't need to be a Fortune 5 enterprise with a change management board and all this other stuff. But we would definitely benefit from some structure, some discipline, and some governance, And maybe we need to spin up a project to get a dashboard to show here's the qualities that Arno was tracking in this table that we require from a working group. Who's got that? Who doesn't? Okay, now it's somebody's job to go nag the people involved in that to get that done. And there'll be some wailing and gnashing of teeth, but at the end of the day, most of the stuff we ask you to do is 5-10 minutes of work. It's just kind of
and we shouldn't assume that this always is going to be the reaction, because I've seen when we started, a while ago, the TAC actually started saying, hey, working groups, you guys need to get a charter. I've been in working with people like, please help us. We're happy to do whatever it takes to get it right? So it's not necessarily that they don't want to, they just don't know what they're supposed to do. So.
All right. And any other topics we wish to discuss today? Any other points you want to make?
Any other soapbox to step on, Jay?
No, I gotta temper how many soapboxes I stand on. I gotta temper that thing.
And everybody's opinion matters. So, and there is going to be a TAC election very soon. So if you want to,
Indeed,
there are ways to influence how things go forward.
I haven't been nominated. No one's nominated.
Well, they haven't done the official call
started yet, so
it hasn't started yet.
Oh, I don't want that life anyway. Want that life.
It's great.
Oh God.
Any other thoughts? Anything else we want to
that's cool.
Think about?
I feel like I'm not old enough yet to shake my fist at the sun.
Old man yells at cloud.
Yeah.
All right, folks, thank you for your time and attention, your collaboration on this. I'm looking forward to starting to make some changes. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Very good.
Good
And please
talking
take
to
a look
you
at the requests for the TAC so we can get
Yeah.
focus on that as the part of the conversation.
all. Sounds good. Thanks.
Cheers.